Over a month since Hamas militants took over 240 people hostage from Israel, the US and Israeli officials say there is more progress in knowing about their status. The US National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan said the Biden administration is working round the clock to get the 240 hostages released. Sullivan is meeting representatives of the family members of the hostages on Tuesday. Sullivan told White House briefing that 9 Americans are currently unaccounted for, along the 1 US green card holder. While declining to give much information about the status of the hostages, Sullivan said the US did have information about some of them. Biden's top aide also confirmed that the US is involved in the hostage release negotiations with the Israelis and the Qataris. A US news report has quoted a high-ranking Israeli official saying that Israel and Hamas are close to a hostage deal. The tentative agreement calls for Israeli women and children to be released in groups. Simultaneously, Israel would release Palestinian women and young people held in Israeli prisons. The agreement could be announced within the coming days if it goes through. According to the report, Israel wants all 100 women and children taken from Israel to be released. But Hamas has indicated that it will release 70 women and children. According to the high-ranking Israeli official, a temporary ceasefire of 5 days can accompany the exchange of hostages and prisoners. The truce will allow safe travel for the Israeli captives. It could also allow for more international assistance to Palestinian civilians in Gaza that will ease the humanitarian crisis.
On Thursday, the president will travel to New Delhi, India to attend.
As the war continues to intensify, WION's correspondent Jody Cohen spoke exclusively to the spokesperson of the Israeli Defense Forces, Jonathan Konikos. Take a look.
What can you tell us on the latest on the fighting right now in Gaza?
Well, I can report that as of today, our intelligence assessment is that we have significantly degraded the combat capabilities of 10 out of 12 Hamas battalions that are located and fighting in northern Gaza, which is a significant achievement. Northern Gaza is where we are focusing our ground operations and our fire against Hamas. That is where we've been focusing and really attacking their infrastructure. So far, the advance is good, solid, it's according to plan, and we will carry on these operations against all of Hamas strongholds wherever they are in the Gaza Strip.
We're hearing growing calls from the international community, including countries that are allies with Israel, for Israel to do more to protect Gazan civilians. What can you tell us about what's being done and what more can be done to protect the civilians of Gaza?
A tremendous amount is being done by Israel, and I think it is underreported in Western media, not so much in Indian media, but in Western media I think it's underreported. And I think that what we are doing as a combatant in the battlefield is above and beyond what is required of a military in combat. And I'll give a few examples. We have warned ahead of our intentions and given ample time to evacuate. Had our warnings been taken seriously, all of the situations now unfolding in Shifa and other hospitals, the sad humanitarian stories with babies and incubators, etc., they could have been avoided. But Hamas decided not to evacuate people. So we've told in advance. We are providing or facilitating international humanitarian aid. More than 100 trucks per day of food, water, medicine and shelter are being brought in from southern Gaza by the help of Egypt, the US and UN organizations.
Some commentators do suggest that Israel's doing more than has been done in the history of warfare to give warnings to civilians, and also indeed warnings to Hamas at the same time that Israel's about to strike. But why do you think then that Israel's allies, including the United States, are calling on Israel to do more to protect civilian lives in Gaza?
I think that there is many double standards that are present here, and I think that Israel in many cases is held to different, sometimes impossible standards that no other military is held to, especially not when fighting against terror organizations that are using the entire international system and acceptable norms of behavior in warfare, usually the laws of armed conflict. Hamas is abusing all of that, yet we are held to an almost impossible status where we're damned if we do and we're damned if we don't. For instance, evacuate civilians. the beginning, the critique was, how dare you tell civilians to leave? And our answer was, well, of course, we're asking them to leave because we don't want them to be in the battlefield. And the critique was, why are you telling civilians to leave? You cannot do that. That's a war crime, which is ridiculous. We care for the civilians. That's why we want them to leave, because we don't want to kill them. I think that there are bigger political things at play here, and I think that there are global powers, global phenomena that are coming together.
WION World is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news updates on the move.